My guest now is someone who has been instrumental in the ties with a country in Europe called Hungary, and I would like to introduce you to the consul of Hungary, John Parkerson. I would like to ask you a few questions on how you became the consul. I understand that when you were general attorney for Delta, the government of Hungary asked you to be representing their government here in the southeast. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've been honorary consul of Hungary for about 3 years now, just a little more than 3 years, and that's kind of a long story that could take our entire 20 minutes if I were to give you all the details. But here's the short version to answer the question. About 7 years ago, a group of business people in Georgia, working with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, decided to lead a trade mission to Central Europe, including Hungary, Romania, and Czech Republic. That was a region at the time where it seemed that Georgia had very little experience and very few contacts. And so we were just sort of on a fishing expedition, to be perfectly honest. And to our pleasure, I suppose you might say, the Hungarians were the most receptive to our delegation. And the following year, Georgia, in return, hosted a delegation of Hungarians from the Ministry of Economics, from the embassy in Washington, and some various Hungarian businesses, Investment Trade Development Agency in Atlanta. And Clayton County Chamber of Commerce decided it would be the host agency for this group of Hungarians. And the ambassador of Hungary in Washington, whose name at the time, still is his name, but he was at the time András Simonyi, took a personal interest in this mission, reciprocal mission to Georgia. And he decided that he would come as well with the Hungarian delegation. And he brought his economics counselor and his press attaché and a number of people from the embassy, in addition to the Hungarian officials from Budapest. We had a very good seminar on doing business in Hungary, sort of the typical host events that the state of Georgia or any chamber of commerce would have in hosting a foreign trade mission. And it all went very well. And one evening after dinner, the ambassador came up to me and said, "John, this has all been a very good visit. We've met lots of nice people, seen a beautiful city of Atlanta." He said, "But what do people in Atlanta do at night?" And I thought, oh gosh, where's he going with this question? I didn't know him well at that time, certainly didn't know him on a personal level. And I thought, well, there are all kinds of things that people do in Atlanta at night, but I wonder what he as a visitor has in mind. So I said, well, Mr. Ambassador, there's so many things to do. What do you like to do? And his answer was very refreshing, and I can tell you that I was pleased that he said, well, I like music. I like live music, especially rock, blues rock. This is Atlanta. This is the South. There are a lot of blues. Of course, acts came out of the South, including Georgia. Certainly there must be a venue where we can go hear some live music. So I said, okay. Well, let's all go to Virginia Highlands to a place called Blind Willie's. There were about 15 Hungarians and 10 of us from Atlanta area who were hosting. And so I quickly threw together a caravan of cars, and you take 2 Hungarians, you take 3 Hungarians, we're headed to Blind Willie's. It was a weeknight. We got to Blind Willie's. There were very few people there, but a great band was playing called the Breeze Kings. They're still around, a good Atlanta blues band, and we listened to the Breeze Kings for a while. And I wanted all the Hungarian guests, many of whom had never been in the United States, to have a good pub experience. Right. So I ordered the standard pitchers of American beer and chicken wings and fries, and all the junk food you order in a pub when
Right.
you're listening to a band play. And we were enjoying ourselves. And after several glasses of beer, the ambassador leaned over to me and he said, "I could play with those guys." And I thought, "You can't play with those guys. They're playing blues. Hungarians can't play blues." And so I just sort of let it slip. After another glass or two of beer, he leaned over to me again and he said, "I'm as good as that guitarist. I could play with that band." And I said, "You can't play with that band. You're the ambassador of Hungary, and besides, the blues is an American style of music, and certainly Hungarians can't play blues." So we were just feeling very comfortable in the environment, and I figured it was the refreshments of the evening that were causing him to comment as he was.
Right.
So I decided to play a little joke, and when the band took a break, I went to the back of the Blind Willies where the band was gathered, and I asked the band, I said, "See that group of people who don't really blend? Those are Hungarians, and that man over there," and I pointed at him, I said, "That's the ambassador of Hungary. He's the most important Hungarian in the United States, and he says that he could play with you." So they looked at me like, "Well, so what?" And I said, "Would you please just go along with me, and when you return to do your next set, invite him to play with you? Because don't worry, I know we won't. Hungarians can't play blues, and this will be kind of funny." So they agreed to do it. And when they came back, they invited the ambassador. They recognized the group, and he jumped out of his chair, jumped up on stage, grabbed the guitar, and said, "Let's play." So to cut the story a little bit shorter than I've made it so far, the ambassador ended up playing the rest of the evening with this blues band, and he was quite good. He was playing lead guitar and singing these blues songs in a perfect American blues voice. We were all amazed. We had no idea the ambassador had this hidden talent. Well, it turned out that he had a little band, a garage band of men in their let's say late 40s, early 50s, who were reliving their youth, and they played at benefits. They played for the victims of 9/11. They played at Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington for wounded soldiers. They played in New Orleans to raise money for the victims of Hurricane Katrina.
That's
and
great.
they just did this for fun and for benefits.
Right.
And so the ambassador started inviting me to go hear his band perform. And because I worked for Delta at the time, I had my flight benefits, and it was easy for me to go to these things. And he began to invite me to Washington to embassy functions, receptions, dinners, and it was all just great fun, and we became close friends.
That is great.
And that's how it all began. About a year later, Delta made the business decision to begin service from New York to Budapest, and as Delta's in-house counsel for international matters, that became my project to get the legal work done that would permit Delta to actually fly that route.
That's great.
So the first person I called once I found out that this could be public knowledge was the ambassador, and he said, "I knew that something would come of my trip to Atlanta."
In the performance, right?
That's right. Actually, of course, it had nothing to do with his performance at Blind Willie's or his trip to Atlanta, but that was fine that he believed that, if he truly did. And so I worked the Budapest case, went to Hungary, retained counsel, obtained the permits, did all the legal work that was standard for any foreign startup for an international airline. And I was asked by Delta if I would organize the inaugural event because of my contacts with the embassy.
Right.
So I invited the ambassador to bring an entourage on the first flight. He cut the ribbon in New York, opening the JFK Budapest flight, and also did the same once we arrived in Budapest. So he very much was a part of Delta's opening of that route to Hungary. And on the flight back, he sat next to me on the airplane, and he said, "John," he said, "this has all been fun. We've formed a good friendship. I've gotten to know you, to trust you." And he said, I